in recommending your appointment as Dean of the Graduate School of Library and Information Science. In appointing you to these duties, the Board of Trustees expresses its profound confidence in you and your abilities as you lead the Graduate School of Library and Information Science in the years ahead. We charge you to uphold the traditions of the Graduate School of Library and Information Science while at the same time shaping the college to meet the ever-changing challenges of the future. By virtue of the authority vested in me by the Corporation of Simmons College, I pronounce you, Eileen G. Abels, the Dean of the Graduate School of Library and Information Science. Eileen G. Abels, Dean of the Graduate School of Library and Information Science, to deliver the investiture address.
Thank you. That was overwhelming. I heard that there were going to be a lot of introductions, and that was more than I ever could have hoped for. So everyone said that this would be worth all the effort, and I have to agree. So, an investiture signifies a beginning and also a time of change. As was noted just now by President Drynan, that we are facing an ever-changing challenges of the future. The following quote, attributed to Isaac Asimov, provides a perfect framework for my brief remarks. The only constant is change, continuing change, inevitable change. That is the dominant factor in society today. And Gisela's folks have heard this one before. Just a quote. Think for a moment of some everyday tasks. It could be shopping, looking for information, making a reservation for dinner, communicating with friends and family, watching television, planning a trip. Faculty, think about the way you teach or collaborate on research projects. Students, think about the way you learn. Do you accomplish these tasks today in the same way you have done in the past? Probably not, at least not all of them the same way. Technology is one driving force in the changes we are experiencing. Let's take communicating with family and friends as one example to explore more in depth. My father used to handwrite weekly letters to me when I went to college, using what some now refer to as snail mail. My husband and I now find text messaging on our cell phones the best way to communicate with our daughter if we hope for a quick response. We are not alone in the use of a cell phone. According to the Pew Research Internet Project, as of January 2014, 90% of American adults have a cell phone. 58% of American adults have a smartphone. They also noted in this same report that 67% of cell phone owners check their phones for messages, text, or calls, even when the phone doesn't ring or vibrate. So we can all do that now. So we are still communicating with family and friends. We are just doing it differently. We might actually be communicating more often. Social media technologies, which include blogs, microblogs like Twitter, which you saw in action earlier today, podcasts, social bookmarking like Delicious, content communities such as YouTube, collaborative projects like Wikipedia, social networking sites like Facebook and LinkedIn, music sharing like Pandora, among others, have changed the way we communicate. I would like to focus on Twitter for a few minutes. I would argue that Twitter is a good example of a change agent. For anyone not familiar with Twitter, it offers a microblogging service. The means of communication is called a tweet, and each tweet is limited to 140 characters. Some of you are probably very experienced users of Twitter and might even be tweeting as I speak. Twitter has become a platform for breaking news, a means of quick communication, a way to gather information, a tool to track trends using a hashtag, a tool to connect with others who are concerned with similar interests and issues. The National Education Association posted an article on their website about how tweeting can improve teaching. Educators have found Twitter useful for networking and sharing ideas with other educators. Instructors are using Twitter to engage students outside of the classroom by posing thought-provoking questions to students, to facilitate discussion, and for collaborative story writing. According to Twitter's blog, the first tweet was sent on March 21st, 2006, and it took 3 years, 2 months, and 1 day to reach 500 million tweets. By 2011, which would only be after a 5-year period, Twitter had 100 million active users. This exemplifies the fact not only that we are experiencing change in the way we communicate, but the rate of change has greatly accelerated. According to the YouTube video, Did You Know?, it took 38 years for the radio to reach an audience of 50 million. Television reached that level in 13 years. It took the internet 4 years, and Facebook had 50 million users in 2 years. Now, many smartphone apps have tens of millions of users within weeks. In addition to the speed of change, Twitter provides us with an example of another trend. In August 2013, Twitter reported that they hit a new record of tweets per second, TPS. 143,199 tweets per second on that day in August. At that same time, Twitter was averaging 500 million tweets per day on a typical day. You can go to the website and see why they had so many tweets. The Twitter archive is now available at the Library of Congress. As of January 2013, the library had 170 billion tweets in the archive and was adding 500 million tweets per day. 500 million tweets a day is a lot of tweets. This is clearly an example of big data. Massive amounts of data that we are gathering, and this is just one social media technology. You might wonder what we would do with hundreds of billions of tweets. For the Library of Congress, this is a new kind of collection, one that they consider important because it captures one form of communication via social media. Social media communication is either adding to or replacing other forms of communication, forms that have been collected by libraries and archives over time. The Library of Congress feels that this archive of tweets will help to provide a more complete picture of communication today when others are looking back. However, archiving and preserving tweets is presenting challenges, as is the means of providing access to the archive in a way that is useful to researchers. The library indicated that technology to create these huge data sets, like Twitter, has surpassed the technology that is needed to store, retrieve, and distribute the data in a meaningful way. Twitter data are already being used by multidisciplinary research teams. One example that resonates with us here in Boston is a study conducted by researchers at the University of Washington and Northeastern University on a set of 10.6 million tweets generated following the Boston Marathon bombings to identify the spread of rumors and misinformation, as well as the rate of correction to the misinformation. The research team found that Twitter helped get information out quickly, yet some of the information was incorrect. Obviously, with a social media tool like Twitter, information can go viral very quickly, and viral misinformation poses a big problem. The researchers hope to create a tool that will help flag tweets in real time that may be rumors, thus reducing misinformation. So, Twitter presents us with a change in the way we communicate, the rapid rate with which change occurs, a way to do old things new ways, an example of big data and challenges to library scientists, information scientists, and computer scientists. Asimov's quote about change as a constant continues. No sensible decision can be made any longer without taking into account not only the world as it is, but the world as it will be. How can we know what the world will be? One way is to follow trends through environmental scanning by monitoring news outlets, blogs, wikis, magazines, journals, videos, tweets, Facebook posts, and the list goes on. You look not only at what's going on in your industry or area of interest, but you look beyond, because you might be able to learn from the experiences of others and build on what you learn from them. To know what the world will be, we have to be entrepreneurial, innovative, and collaborative. We have to be willing to take risks. We need to think globally. Harvard Business School professor Rosabeth Moss-Cantor reminds us that we don't have to design and build, we don't all have to design and build the innovation. She noted, innovation is putting new ideas to use. It isn't necessarily invention making it happen. That's innovation. We can learn about being innovative from Journey, the 2014 Caldecott Honor Book by Erin Becker that we experienced earlier today. A bored little girl creates her own adventure using a red crayon to create a door to the unknown. She is clearly an innovative risk-taker who encounters a variety of technologies as she explores new worlds and navigates her way home. In closing, I urge everyone to embrace change while at the same time being analytical. In the case of technology, we do not need to adopt every new technology without considering the purpose and the consequences. We have to be concerned and take actions to deal with information privacy, the ethical use of information, the widening digital divide, and information security. The best way to know the world as it will be is to shape our own future. Rather than following the trends of others, let's lead the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. We are almost finished, but we do have one last little surprise for Eileen. We have a surprise visitor, a virtual visitor, who has been very quiet and very invisible, but we do want to let you know that via Skype we have Eileen's daughter, Alex Abels.